Have you ever noticed how some stories in your life straight up refuse to leave you alone? Not every story, of course. I'm not talking about what you had for lunch 3 Tuesdays ago. I'm talking about the stuff that hangs around like an uninvited roommate who doesn't pay rent. That awkward conversation from 2017 you still replay on loop at 2 a.m., that relationship that ended years ago, or that one portrayal you swore you were totally over until someone casually drops their name at a party and your stomach does a backflip. A random wave of emotion hits you out of nowhere and you're like, wait, why am I spiraling? I have a 401k now, I've changed, I'm a completely different person. And yet, a tiny, uncomfortably stubborn part of you is still standing right back in that moment wearing the exact same outfit. People love to sling around that classic, don't worry, time heals all wounds. That's fake news. Time doesn't heal wounds. Time just passes. Emotions are standing in the corner with their arms crossed saying, I can wait. Now, we've been sold this massive lie in the self-help world that if you stack enough calendar pages on top of a bad memory, the pain just somehow dissolves. But if time actually healed things, why do people still break down over losing a parent 20 years later? Why does a mean comment your middle school gym teacher still haunt you in your corporate Zoom meetings? If time healed all wounds, none of that would have happened. Time changes your age, it changes the calendar, it gives you gray hairs, or in my case, it turns you into a silver fox. But time alone does not finish a story. Emotions don't look at a clock. They don't care about time. Emotions operate on completion. And look, I gots to know things. For the longest time, I genuinely thought that if I could just understand my problems, I thought I will solve this like I am simplifying an algebra equation. All the steps will be there and I can follow the path down step by step and I will have understanding and voila, be cured. Yet it turns out understanding a problem doesn't fix it. Shocker, right? You can consciously understand why you're anxious and still be sweating through your shirt. You can understand the exact psychological blueprint of why your ex was wrong for you and still feel like hot garbage about it. Being able to explain the neurochemistry of heartbreak step by step to your therapist does nothing for the fact that your chest is tight. Insight is great. It's like a map, and I prefer having a map versus not having one, but having a map doesn't get your legs moving. And understanding isn't the same thing as finishing. You need resolution, closure. We don't think our way through life. We live it through our bodies, our nervous system, our sensations, and our emotions. And until an emotional story reaches an ending, it stays open. It's an open loop in your brain just waiting and occasionally spiraling. And it's not punishment, even though it is insanely annoying. It waits because as human, we are completely obsessed with finishing things. Back in the 8th grade, I read the first 2 books of a science fiction trilogy. I was hooked, and before writing book 3, the author passed away. I thought it was very inconsiderate of him, although I'm sure it was more troublesome for his squash plans. It has been years, and my brain is still occasionally like, hey, how did that post-apocalyptic magic technology story end with the giant snail? Your mind craves an ending. If someone leaves a sentence unfinished, you almost physically have to jump in and finish it for them. We are wired for closure, and our emotions are the same. They're holding on to a story, and they're desperately waiting for the final chapter. So today, we're talking about how to close the loop. It's letting go. Let's dive in. A lot of people feel like they're carrying around a backpack full of bricks that are old emotions, which is fine until one of those bricks falls out and then you have to deal with shoving it back into the backpack. What you're hauling around is a collection of unfinished stories. And what you're really carrying is attachment, the emotional glue that keeps a story stuck to your nervous system long after the event itself is over. A story isn't just what happened. It's not only the objective facts of the case like an episode of Law and Order. A real story is what happened, how you felt, what your body did, like sweating through your shirt, and the weird beliefs that you adopted about yourself afterwards, and the melodrama of a narrative you've been telling yourself ever since. This is why two people can go through the same awkward event, and one person doesn't even notice while the other person is lying awake at 3 a.m. 8 years later, ruminating about it. For them, the event never ended. But the story just hit pause. No resolution, no final chapter, no credits rolling, just fade to black. And when a story gets cut off like that, it doesn't quietly fade away. Oh no, it turns into a needy little toddler. It tugs on your brain lobes tomorrow, it pops up next month, it taps you on the shoulder 10 years from now while you're trying to enjoy a latte, whispering, "Psst, hey, remember me? Remember that super embarrassing thing from 2014? Let's talk about it." Your nervous system isn't trying to torture you. It's trying insistently to finish what it started. When stories don't get a proper ending, they don't vanish into thin air. They have to go somewhere. So they get your psyche to pay first, last, and secure deposit, and then it lives rent-free right inside your nervous system. It lives in your tight shoulders, your over-the-top reactions to minor inconveniences, in your relationships, your confidence, and your decision-making. Sometimes, in some people I've met, they squat there so long they end up becoming basically their identity. Have you ever met someone who introduces themselves through their old emotional wounds? You meet them at a party and they're like, "Hi, I'm Dave. I'm an anxious person. I have severe trust issues, and I'm fundamentally incapable of being loved. Nice to meet you. Where's the dip?" Those aren't personality traits. That is an unfinished story wearing a name tag. And if that's true, it means those stories can be completed. Not erased. We're not trying to do eternal sunshine of the spotless mind here. You don't have to wipe your memory clean. The goal isn't to forget what happened. The goal is to write the ending. So why do these stories get left unfinished in the first place? So why? Why doesn't the mind just move on? I mean, come on. The only thing in this life I supposedly have 100% control over is my own mind and its focus. And I have explicitly, politely, and sometimes aggressively asked it to drop it. And does my big, powerful brain respond? With total non-compliance. The big meaning. Why doesn't our nervous system just Elsa from Frozen it and let it go? We don't always completely understand what our brains are doing. Your mind isn't doing this to annoy you, although it is annoying. It's rehearsing because something deep down is still waiting. Something is on your mind that doesn't allow it to move on. There's a part of you, we usually call it the ego. It's your identity machine that believes survival depends on attachment. If you'd like to learn more about the ego, we have a couple podcast episodes about that. But the ego, it clings to stories. It clings to old wounds, to the narrative of what happened to me. And its deepest fear is if you let the story go, who are you without that story? The ego doesn't hold on out of stubbornness. It holds on out of genuine terror. It believes letting go means loss. That if the wound finally heals, the version of you that was built around that would disappear with it. And really, it's not entirely wrong. That version does change. But what's underneath that, your actual self, your true self, the one that existed before the story ever started, that doesn't disappear. It just gets more room. The ego mistakes letting go for annihilation. What it's actually resisting is freedom. So the mind rehearses because the body stores. Those aren't the same thing. Your mind keeps looping the movie because your body and your nervous system are still physically holding the heavy props from the set. And until those two get on the same page, the story remains unfinished. So welcome to the anatomy of an unfinished story. Every unfinished story follows a similar 3-act script. Not because life is predictable, but because the human mind is predictable. Step 1. Something happens, events transpire, Complications ensue. Life gives us a massive plot twist we definitely did not see coming. Your friends probably did, but you didn't. Someone lies to you, or worse, they lie to you and then abandon you. You lose somebody you love. You fail. You get embarrassed. You get criticized. Life does what life does. It hands you a giant bowl of lemons that you didn't ask for. And frankly, you don't even like lemonade. Pain happens. It's part of the roller coaster of the human experience. Step 2. The story stops. Notice I didn't say it ends. The event is over, but the story got interrupted. Maybe you said, I don't have time to deal with this right now, or maybe you put on your heroic brave face so everyone else could have their moment instead. We get busy, we get distracted, we judge ourselves because I shouldn't feel this way. We try to analyze the problem instead of feeling it. My personal favorite is convincing myself, oh, I've totally moved on. Or my other personal favorite, I don't care. When really, I've never said I don't care if I actually didn't care. If I didn't care, I couldn't be bothered to say the words I don't care. Either way, the story didn't reach the grand finale. The fat lady didn't sing. It's just sitting there on pause while the DVD menu music loops forever. Do kids these days even know what DVD loop music is? Step 3, the story rehearses. This is the part we all know and love. You replay the conversation in the shower. You construct elaborate hypothetical comebacks as a repair strategy for 2018. You replay the mistake, the embarrassment, the argument again and again and again and again. That looping pain is just a symptom. The rehearsal is your nervous system tapping you on the shoulder going, excuse me, pardon me, we're not done here. If you get a splinter in your finger, it stings. It's a little owie. But you know that pulling it out with tweezers is going to hurt more, so you say, I'll deal with it later. Tomorrow becomes next week becomes next month. Eventually your finger is swollen, tender, and looking like a science experiment. And you look at yourself and you say, self, how did you forget to heal? No, your body was trying to heal the whole time. It couldn't do its job while the splinter was still jammed in there. Unfinished stories work the exact same way. We avoid feeling because we think the feeling itself is dangerous and scary. So we leave the splinter in, we keep functioning, we go to work, we raise kids, we build businesses, we smile for Instagram photos. And underneath it all, our nervous system is screaming, can you please just let me pull the splinter out? There is no struggle, and the struggle is real. Anything you are struggling with, someone else is doing with ease. So when I say there is no struggle, the struggle is not in the thing, the struggle is in you. The struggle in you is real. Again, 2 people can go through the exact same event, and for one person, it's a non-event. And for the other person, it's deeply traumatic. Why? Because life creates pain, but resistance is what creates struggle. Again, life creates pain, resistance creates struggle. Pain is the response. It's inevitable. We don't have a choice about that. Struggle is how we fight against and refuse to accept reality, and that is something that we do have control over and can change. Resistance is super sneaky too. Sometimes it looks like slapping on a fake smile and going, I'm fine, when you know you're absolutely not fine. Resistance is wildly creative. It will let you literally do anything in the world except feel what you need to feel. Try this with me right now, wherever you are. Unless you're driving, please keep your hands on the steering wheel. Clench your fists as tight as you can. Really squeeze it. Now imagine holding your hand like that for an hour, a day, a year. Your hand is going to begin to ache like crazy long before the year is up. Nothing's wrong with your hand. It's that holding on takes a massive amount of energy. Now slowly open your hand. Notice what happens. You didn't force relaxation. You didn't do a heavy workout to fix your hand. You simply stopped gripping. Letting go isn't doing something extra. It's something that you stop doing. You stop resisting, you stop fighting, You stop arguing with reality. This doesn't mean being passive. It doesn't mean pretending painful things didn't happen. It doesn't mean slapping a toxic positivity sticker on it and saying, everything happens for a reason. And it definitely doesn't mean approving of someone's garbage behavior or letting them hurt you again. Acceptance is not agreement. Acceptance simply looks at reality and says, this happened. This is reality. Because until we stop arguing with what already happened, our energy stays trapped in the past. Your nervous system can't finish when you refuse to feel. Thinking isn't enough. Insight isn't enough. Understanding isn't enough. They're great, but none of them hit the submit button on the story. Completion requires you to show up, sit with yourself, and give your nervous system permission to do what it's been trying to do all along. Finish the story. The first emotion you're feeling is almost never the whole story. For me, it's anger. That's my go-to emotion. It might be fear or guilt or shame, but the next time you catch yourself replaying something with that tight feeling in your body, try asking, what is this feeling protecting me from? And then sit with it. Because under that first emotion is almost always something softer, something that got hurt. And under that, if you're willing to keep going, is usually grief. Not grief like somebody died. Grief like something you wanted didn't happen. Grief like love that wasn't returned the way you needed it. That's where the story lives. And that's where breathwork can take you if you let it. There are a lot of things in life that I've learned as an adult, and I wonder whose job it was to tell me this when I was younger and failed the assignment. This is one of those things. Emotions aren't thoughts. They're not ideas you can argue yourself out of. They're energy, actual physical energy moving through your body, which is why we call them feelings. You feel them, or at least it's trying to move through your body. When you suppress a feeling and analyze it into the ground or distract yourself past it, that energy doesn't go anywhere. It sets up residence in your shoulders, your chest, your gut, and it's just waiting. I have the belief that all chronic, long-term, persistent health issues are unresolved emotions. But here's the part that messed me up when I understood it. Emotions don't need you to fix them. They need you to feel them. When you stop fighting a feeling, when you allow it to exist without judging it or scrambling to escape it, the energy moves. It processes, it completes itself naturally like it always wanted to. Your nervous system already knows how to do this. It has been trying to do this all along. Your only job is to stop blocking the door. And this brings us to letting go is what finishes the unfinished. Again, letting go doesn't mean you forget what happened, or you approve of their toxic behavior, or that you approve of their toxic behavior, or that you give them a pass. It definitely doesn't mean you invite your sketchy ex back into your life. Oh, I let it go, so let's get coffee. One of my clients one time was having a really hard time letting go of the wrongs that his brother had committed against him. They had had 3 businesses together, and his brother had screwed him over 3 times. And what it basically boiled down to was he was worried that if he let go of it, that it would erase the boundary that he had put in place, and that his brother would come back into his life and he'd do all the work and his brother would get all the gold, and he didn't want to do that anymore with his life. No, that's not letting go. That's bad judgment or letting go of your boundaries. Poor discernment, or maybe even denial. When you finish a story, the memory remains. The lesson stays, the wisdom stays, the boundaries that you put in place stay. It's the energy that is allowed to release, that there's no longer any energy attached to that story. The suffering is removed from the story. Not a race, the goal is to finish. Back in the day, before some absolute genius put wheels on suitcases, seriously, why did that take humanity so long? We put a man on the moon before we put wheels on a duffel bag? Come on, people, do better. You had to carry heavy luggage everywhere by hand, Imagine lugging a 50-pound suitcase through an airport terminal. At first, you're like, wow, this is heavy. But then your grip adapts, your shoulder hitches up to your ear, and one leg doesn't bend because the suitcase is resting against it as you Frankenstein your way down the terminal. You're just looking forward to it being over and being able to put it down. Then you finally set the suitcase down at your gate. You expect instant glorious relief, but no. Pins and needles, your hand is throbbing. It hurts even more when you set it down than it did while you were lugging it through the airport. It feels worse, but it's not getting worse. It's the blood flow and feeling returning to your hand. Emotional healing works the exact same way. People show up to a breathwork session expecting immediate, instant zen. And sometimes, yeah, it happens. But a lot of times, the very first thing they feel is the weight of the emotional baggage that they've been dragging around. Breathwork didn't create the pain. It just lets you feel it to be able to let it go. That you unclenched the fist. You pulled out the splinter. Temporary discomfort isn't a sign that you failed. It's usually the first sign that you're healing. Conscious connected breathing is not a relaxation technique. It's not a cozy self-care day at the spa. And it's definitely not something you should only pull out of your back pocket when your life is actively burning to the ground. I see you, crisis meditators. I know who you are. You don't breathe for 6 months, your life implodes, and suddenly you're breathing like a freight train. So what do you do when you come to breath work? We always set an intention to go with our breath work, and some good intentions to help the letting go process. I'm here to feel what I've been avoiding about blank. I'm here to feel what I've been avoiding about blank. I'm here to let go of what I keep replaying about blank. I'm here to let go of what I keep replaying about blank. I'm here to finish something that never got an ending. I'm here to finish something that never got an ending. This last one is a little broader, and that's okay. It's like those old school maps where they didn't really know what was there, so they just labeled it, "Here be dragons, arr." It's a general direction that you're heading in. You don't have to resolve it the first night of breathwork. Just name it. Then, when the feelings start to emerge, don't follow the story. I know that's the instinct. We have a story. The story feels productive. The story is meaning. It's like you're getting somewhere, except you're not. You've already done a couple laps on that. The story is a description of the movie. You don't need a description. You need to observe the movie. So you're going to follow that feeling into your body. Where do you feel it? Is it in your chest, your throat, your stomach, your jaw? I recently experienced some rejection and was amazed at how tight my chest felt and managed to just sit there and breathe into it for 15 minutes. Breathe directly into that part. Don't analyze or explain. Don't figure out whose fault it is. Just stay with the sensation and keep breathing. Let it be exactly as big as it is. And if it gets heavier before it gets lighter, that is the process working. That's the suitcase being set down. That's the splinter coming out. That's the first sign of something finishing. Your only job in a session is to stay present longer than you normally would. That's the whole rep, to just endure that sensation longer than normal. Breathwork is a practice. It's like going to the gym. Nobody expects you to get a six-pack by reading a book about squats, and nobody gets jacked watching workout videos on TikTok while eating Oreos on the couch. I ran that experiment. It didn't work. Knowledge isn't training. Training is training. Doing the thing is the only thing that is doing the thing. In the gym, you put your body under a controlled amount of stress, and then you recover and you repeat. Over time, your muscles adapt and your strength grows. Your nervous system works the exact same way. You come and do breath work every single week. Life throws something at you, a brutal conversation, disappointment, a wild plot twist at work. Have you trained your nervous system to stay present and process the discomfort? Or does it freak out and run away? That's the capacity that we're building here. Every guided breathwork session is an opportunity to practice becoming emotionally stronger, to practice feeling instead of suppressing, to tell your nervous system, I can remain present. I can feel this. I don't have to worry. I don't have to run. I can finish what life interrupted. Sadly, one session isn't going to fix your entire life. Like doing one push-up isn't going to turn you into Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. But a weekly practice, this alters the cores of your life. So what do you do with all this? The next time you catch yourself replaying an old argument in your head, start asking, look, why can't I stop thinking about this? Instead, ask, what about this story is unfinished? Where do I feel this in my body? What emotion am I running from? What happens if I stop trying to fix it and let myself feel it for 15 minutes? Notice the urge to go grab a snack, check Instagram, or rationalize it away. But just notice it and sit with it. And then come breathe. Not just once because you're having a bad Tuesday, but consistently. Teach your nervous system that discomfort is not danger. Imagine your life a year from now. Life is still going to be intermittently uncomfortable. Breathwork sadly doesn't turn the world into a paradise of rainbows and puppies. People will disappoint you, plans will fall apart, work will still bring the drama, but imagine moving through it differently. Imagine not replaying a bad conversation for 4 days straight. This is usually my cutoff. If I'm ruminating about anything for more than 4 days in a row, action must be taken. Imagine feeling disappointment without letting it hijack your entire weekend. Imagine coming home from work and being 100% present with your family instead of staring blankly at the TV, replaying in your mind some email from your boss who doesn't appreciate you. Imagine sleeping straight through the night because your nervous system isn't lugging around years of unfinished business. You don't go to the gym to lift heavy stuff up and down. You go so that you're strong enough for the rest of life. Or you're doing curls for the girls. No shame. Breath work isn't about breathing. It's about building the emotional capacity to show up as your absolute best self in every room you walk into. Time passes. Emotions wait. Stories without an ending don't disappear. They shack up in your body and wait. Life creates pain. Resistance creates struggle. The mind rehearses because the body remembers. And healing begins when you let go of resistance. Your nervous system cannot finish what you refuse to feel. Set the suitcase down. Pull the splinter out. The goal is not to forget. The goal is to finish. Every time you choose to show up, breathe, and stay present, you become a little more free. That's the power of breath work. Not to help you breathe differently, but to help you live differently, to help you live fully. Letting go is about letting go of pain. My goal is for you to live a life of elegance, and step one of elegance is to be effective. You can't be effective if you're in pain. You can't fully express the genius inside of you when your energy is tied up, carrying attachments from 2017. The poet William Blake understood the trap of an unfinished story when he wrote, I was angry with my friend. I told my wrath did end. I was angry with my foe. I told it not, my wrath did grow. And I watered it in fears, night and morning with my tears, and I sunned it with smiles, and with soft deceitful wiles. And that was William Blake. You water your old wounds and fears. You sun them with fake smiles and I'm fine resistance. And all you do is grow a poison tree inside your own nervous system. The deepest parts of you want to be known. They want to be seen. Sometimes people come to breathwork and just the pain relief is enough. The crisis meditators showing up when the house is on fire. But there's more available. Once you are effective, you can simplify. Anytime we master something, we tend to over-engineer the solution at first. We add extra steps, extra stories, extra analysis. Healing is simply removing those extra steps until you are left with the minimum effective move, staying with the feeling. And once you simplify, you learn to live with style. How you breathe is how you live. Take a big, deep, completing breath.